Let me tell you how I tricked my brain into doing hard things. For the longest time, I struggled. It was tough for me to hit the gym, study for exams, or even start a side hustle, despite knowing their benefits. Instead, I found myself drawn to video games, TV, social media scrolling, and eating junk food. You understand what I'm talking about. For some reason, I just couldn't understand why some people were more motivated to take on challenging tasks like starting an online business, while I couldn't even maintain focus for even a short 10-minute work or study session without becoming distracted. To answer this, I had to do some research to see whether it was possible for someone like me to overcome these obstacles and to truly become better and more motivated. Cause let me tell you, I was tired. And to save you all some time, I'll tell you right away, the answer was yes, it was possible. But how, you may ask? Well, allow me to explain. During my research, I discovered the reason why some activities felt so difficult and impossible to achieve, while others felt so much easier. For instance, ask yourself, why are you watching this YouTube video instead of starting the side hustle you always wanted? Or why aren't you advancing your education so that you can get that dream job? Contrary to what you might think, it's not solely about willpower. It's about this chemical in our brains called dopamine. Dopamine is often seen as a feel-good chemical, but its job goes beyond just making us happy. It's a neurotransmitter, essentially a chemical messenger in the brain that plays a vital role in several functions. That includes motivation, reward, reinforcement, and pleasure. For instance, ever felt a certain urge to jump out of bed and to tackle the day? Well, that's dopamine in action, giving you the motivation to do stuff. If something doesn't trigger enough dopamine, you're less likely to be motivated to do it. But when an activity floods your brain with dopamine, you're hooked and you want to keep doing it over and over. It's the reason why you get a kick out of scrolling through social media, why some folks are gym fanatics, and why others are into watching adult content. It's all about the dopamine rush. However, here comes the problem. Your brain couldn't care less if the activity flooding you with dopamine is actually harmful or not. It just keeps craving more and more of that feel-good stuff. Take comfort eating, for example. Your brain dumps out dopamine in the anticipation of the yummy treat, even if it ends up making you feel worse afterwards. Same thing with drinking, drug, and porn addicts. They know what they're doing isn't good, but all they want is another hit. Activities like these unleash crazy amounts of dopamine, making you desperate for more. And the scary part about all this is that you'll never know when you get hooked. In today's digital world, we're bombarding our brains with dopamine highs left and right, often without even realizing it. Scrolling through socials, gaming for hours, binging the internet. Each time we're expecting a reward, like the new notification that is about to pop up on your phone. It's this constant craving for that dopamine hit that keeps us glued to our phones, always seeking that next thrill. Now you might think to yourself that, so what? Let me leave and enjoy my life. We only get to live once. What's the harm? Well, you might have to think again because it gets worse. You see, our bodies have this inbuilt system called homeostasis, which is like our internal balance keeper. It basically keeps things in check inside our bodies, making sure everything stays stable and balanced. For example, it regulates our blood pressure, balances the fluids in our body, controls the blood sugar levels, regulates our body temperature, and it does the same with dopamine. You see, our body tries to maintain homeostasis by regulating our dopamine receptors. It makes sure you don't go overboard on the dopamine high, which keeps things balanced in your brain's pleasure department. Now, when you're always riding the dopamine wave, your brain gets used to those high waves, and they become your new normal. That's when we develop something we call dopamine tolerance. This is when things don't give you the same dopamine hit anymore. They just simply don't interest you as much. It's as though you're missing a spark that you once had. So things like studying or working feel like a snooze fest compared to the excitement of gaming or scrolling through social media. Now, it's said that one of the reasons we become addicts is because our dopamine tolerance is so sky high that regular life cannot even come close to matching it. And it's not just drugs though. People that get hooked on video games, social media, or internet porn may sometimes face the same struggle. Once their dopamine tolerance hits the roof, anything that doesn't give them the same dopamine rush just falls flat. that. It's the reason people find themselves watching YouTube on 2 different devices at the same time, and why sometimes they go from nicotine to cocaine. And all this begs the question, how do you fix this? Well, the answer for me was dopamine detox. Now, what is a dopamine detox? In simple terms, it's a self-imposed period during which an individual abstains from engaging in activities that provide instant gratification or overstimulation, with the intention of resetting their brain's reward system. The idea behind a dopamine detox is to temporarily abstain from activities that provide instant gratification or pleasure, such as social media, video games, junk food, and even some forms of entertainment. The goal is to reset your brain's reward system and to reduce dependency on these activities, allowing you to focus better, increase productivity, and regain control over your habits and impulses. By taking a break, the theory suggests that your brain's dopamine receptors will become less desensitized, making it easier to find satisfaction in simpler, less stimulating activities. And this is how I did it. As opposed to going all in like most people do, I went a different route. I took a more gradual approach. For starters, once a week, usually on the weekends when I was home, I set aside 4 hours to disconnect from the internet, my phone, and anything else I found enjoyable. During this time, I challenged myself to embrace boredom and to try out new activities like meditation, going for a walk, socializing with friends and family, or even be as bold as to go on a date. The goal was to give my brain a break from the constant dopamine rush it was used to, and to develop healthier habits. Trust me, it was hard. And if you're like anything like me, it will be hard for you as well. During these small practices, I started to notice a few things. For instance, I felt like I could concentrate on certain tasks a little longer. I felt my anxieties reduce. I felt more creative because I had more time to think. I felt my overall sense of happiness and well-being increase because I wasn't wasting so much time on video games. I was shocked, and I thought to myself, if just 4 hours a week could make me feel like this, how about going the whole day? And just like that, I decided to try it out. So I designated every Sunday as my unplugged day, meaning no internet, no phone, no games, none of my usual distractions. It was just me facing my boredom head on. At first it was tough because I was accustomed to being online all the time. Going offline for 24 hours felt like torture. Nevertheless, I persevered because I desperately needed a change in my life. Now, because I was so bored and I had so much time on my hands, I began searching for alternative ways to occupy myself. For example, I got into working out and even began jotting down ideas for a side hustle I've always been itching to give a shot. This went on for weeks. It wasn't until I began to notice a gradual decrease in my weight that it dawned on me. I was actually being consistent without even realizing it. And as I kept at it, I found myself coming up with some pretty neat ideas for my side hustle. It turns out that consistency was the real game changer when it came to reaching my goals. And there I was, being consistent all along without even thinking about it. This sparked a whole new kind of dopamine rush for me, one that I had not experienced in a while. And let me tell you, my brain was craving for more. Now, because I didn't want to lose momentum, every time I found some free time, I kept working on myself. I got addicted to seeing results. And before I knew it, I had lost 10 pounds. And I even made my first sale selling bottles. Let me tell you, it was amazing because I barely felt like I was putting in more time or thought into this. My brain just kept craving for more and more. Because of the results, I wanted to implement this throughout my whole life. But the question was, how? Well, you know me. After doing some more research, I discovered a way I could do this throughout the whole week without it being too hard. For instance, for every hour of low dopamine work I got done, I rewarded myself with 15 minutes of high dopamine activity. So for every 8 hours of low dopamine tasks, I gave myself about 2 hours of high dopamine fun. And let me tell you, this completely changed my life. But that's a story for another time. I can't just give you all the secrets like in one video. At least you have to survive. Allergies. Anyway, with all jokes aside, all I'm trying to say is that yes, it's possible to make difficult things much easier. But in order to do that, you have to separate yourself from the unnaturally high amounts of dopamine, or at least expose yourself to it far less frequently.
You see, when your brain is constantly flooded with dopamine,
whether from social media, video games, or other high-intensive activities, you become accustomed to that level of excitement. As a result, tasks or activities that don't provide the same dopamine rush, like studying for exams, start becoming less appealing. This makes it difficult to focus on tasks that require sustained efforts or don't offer immediate reward, leading to procrastination and avoidance.
So if you're feeling unmotivated, consider a dopamine
detox. By giving your brain a break from the high dopamine activities, you can reset your brain's reward system just like I did. This will make everyday tasks more enjoyable and it helps you engage in them with renewed focus and energy. However, it's essential to note that while some people find the concept of dopamine detox helpful for breaking out of unproductive habits and improving focus, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, and its effectiveness can vary from person to person. So it's essential to approach it with critical thinking and consider consulting a healthcare professional if you have concerns about your mental health or well-being.